The movie starts by taking us straight to the busy streets of New York City. Right there, in front of a big hospital, there was a drain. Deep inside that drain, a tiny baby was lying all alone in a small basket. Before anyone could notice, the basket slipped into the water and started floating away. It kept traveling through the water for days and days, going further and further away from the city until it finally reached a quiet, faraway swamp. Deep inside this swamp, there was a small, lonely hut. Suddenly, the loud crying of a baby broke the silence of the area. Hearing this, a woman living inside the hut came rushing out. She looked around and spotted the basket with the crying baby inside. She gently picked him up, and that's when we see something shocking. This baby was not regular. He was half alligator and half human. But this didn't matter to the kind woman. She looked at him with so much love, accepted him completely, and decided right then and there that she would raise him as her own son. She named him Arlo. From that day on, Arlo and his new mom started living together in that quiet swamp. As Arlo grew up, his mom became very protective. She never wanted him to step outside the swamp because she feared the harsh outside world wouldn't understand him. She wanted him to stay hidden where he was safe. But Arlo was a curious boy. He always had this deep wish to see what lay beyond the swamp and explore the big world. One day, his mom asked him to go and find something to eat from the nearby area. Arlo happily headed out into the swamp, and being a cheerful soul, he started singing beautifully while searching for food. Arlo wasn't completely alone. He had made many friends in the swamp, all different kinds of animals. He started playing and enjoying with them, completely lost in his singing and fun. He was so distracted that he didn't even realize he had wandered very far away from the safety of his swamp. Suddenly, Arlo saw a massive ship coming his way. The ship was packed with all sorts of different people who were partying, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Seeing them, Arlo got lost in a daydream. He started imagining that he was also up there on the ship, singing and dancing happily with everyone else. As he stood there daydreaming and singing softly to himself, a little kid on the ship spotted him. The kid got startled and started shouting loudly, telling everyone that he just saw a strange creature that looked like a half-human, half-crocodile. But none of the adults believed him. They just shrugged it off. Terrified of being caught, Arlo immediately snapped out of his dream and ran away as fast as he could. Panicking, he quickly gathered some food and rushed back home. The moment he stepped inside, his mom took one look at his face and knew something was terribly wrong. She asked him what happened, but Arlo was too scared and chose to keep quiet. He didn't mention anything about the ship or the people he saw. But a mother's heart knows everything. She understood he was hiding something. She gently led him inside the house, handed him a box, and told him to open it. Arlo looked at it confused and said, "But Mom, it's not even my birthday today. Why should I open it?" Instead of answering, his mom lovingly sang a beautiful song for him. After the song, Arlo opened the box and found a tiny hoodie inside that he used to wear when he was just a little baby. Looking at the tiny clothes, his mom decided it was time to tell him the truth. With a heavy heart, she explained how he had floated all the way from New York City as a baby and how she had found him and raised him here. She told him that his real family must still be out there in New York. Hearing this changed something inside Arlo. He made up his mind. He was going to New York City to find his real dad. This was incredibly painful for his mom because she loved him like her own flesh and blood, but she knew she had to let him go. She gave him her blessings, and after a very emotional, tearful goodbye, Arlo set off on his long journey toward the big city. Eventually, Arlo finally reached the massive city. But the moment he entered, people started staring at him with fear and shock. Nobody had ever seen a person like Arlo before, someone who was half crocodile and half human. The crowd's reaction terrified Arlo. Unfortunately, during all this chaos, a man had spotted him. This man immediately called up his two animal hunter friends, telling them that he had just seen a bizarre human alligator creature. The hunters got incredibly excited. They realized that if they caught this rare creature, they could display him and make a massive amount of money. Without wasting a second, the hunters tracked his location and closed in on him. Arlo ran for his life, but the hunters were fast and he was just about to get caught. Right at that terrible moment, a brave girl named Birdie jumped in to help him. Together, Arlo and Birdie managed to dodge the hunters and leaped onto a moving train to escape. Safe for a moment on the train, Arlo poured his heart out to Birdie, telling her his whole story and how he had come all the way to New York to find his dad. He looked at her and warmly asked if she would come along to New York with him, and she agreed. But those greedy animal hunters weren't ready to give up so easily. They were hot on their trail, and this time they brought reinforcement. Since they had seen Birdie, who was a tough, healthy girl, the hunters decided to bring a terrifying, massive monster beast along with them to make sure they could overpower them. After traveling for a while, Birdie and Arlo reached an old farmhouse. Tired from all the running, they thought they could finally rest for a bit. But luck wasn't on their side. Trouble followed them there too. Through pure luck and quick thinking, Birdie and Arlo managed to escape from the farmhouse just in time, leaving the danger behind. Next, their journey brought them to a loud, chaotic wrestling club. Inside, they saw a massive fight going on between wrestlers. In the middle of all the chaos, a small man and his friend suddenly grabbed everyone's prize money and started running away. Seeing a golden opportunity, Birdie and Arlo stopped the thieves, took the money back, and handed it over. That he asked Arlo what he wanted. Arlo simply looked at him and said, "I don't want money, I just want to find my dad." Hearing his story, a group of people there decided to help Arlo. They sat down and made a plan. But first, they needed to make a quick detour to a local aquarium to rescue another friend, a unique creature who was half fish and half human. Once they rescued him, they could all go to New York together. They all hopped into a van, drove straight to the aquarium, and smoothly managed to break their friend out. With their group growing, their next big stop was New York City. As night fell, the friends decided to park the van and get some rest before the final stretch. Meanwhile, the relentless animal hunters were still tracking Arlo's every move. They ended up at the same wrestling club where Arlo had been. Knowing that people there had seen the strange creature, the hunters grabbed one of the men from the club. After torturing and threatening him harshly, they finally forced the information out of him. They discovered that Arlo and his friends were heading to New York to find Arlo's dad. The hunters smiled, realizing they didn't need to chase him through the woods anymore. They planned to drive straight to New York, set up a trap, and wait for Arlo to arrive so they could ambush him. On the other side, Arlo and his friends safely arrived in the grand city of New York. But as they looked around at the endless streets and towering buildings, a sudden wave of worry hit them. How on earth were they going to find one single man in a city this massive? But just as they were starting to lose hope, they looked up at a giant billboard screen in the middle of the street. An advertisement was playing, and to their absolute shock, the man in the ad was Arlo's dad. It turned out his dad was a highly successful, wealthy businessman. Seeing this, the friends quickly worked together, tracked down the business address from the ad, and brought Arlo straight to his dad's grand building. Standing at the entrance, Arlo felt nervous and asked his friends to come inside with him. But his friends gently smiled and told him that this was his personal journey, something he had to face alone. They shared a warm goodbye, and his friends walked away. Arlo took a deep breath and walked into the building. Finally, he came face to face with his dad. With hope in his eyes, Arlo told him everything, explaining that he was his long-lost son and how he had traveled so far just to find him. But to Arlo's absolute heartbreak, his dad coldly denied it, looking away and saying Arlo wasn't his son. Arlo's world shattered, and he became incredibly sad. Seeing the sadness in Arlo, the dad's tone shifted a bit. He decided to show Arlo around and talked about his grand new business project, a massive construction planned right by the seashore. He even gave Arlo some new clothes to wear, which acted like a disguise to hide his alligator features. For a brief moment, they even sang and danced together, sharing a fleeting, happy connection. But right after that, the dad looked at him and told him that it was time for him to leave. Confused, broken-hearted, and with nowhere else to go, Arlo walked out of the building. He wandered aimlessly through the unfamiliar city streets, feeling completely abandoned. With his heart shattered into pieces, he eventually crawled into a sewage line, weeping bitterly as the water carried his helpless body away. When the drain finally emptied out, Arlo washed ashore, still crying. But as he looked up, he saw a beautiful sight. All of his loyal friends were standing right there, waiting for him. The water had carried Arlo straight to the seashore, the exact spot where his dad's new project was being built. Birdie walked up to him, comforted him, and told him not to lose heart. Just then, a gust of wind blew a flyer right into their hands. The flyer was an invitation to the grand inauguration ceremony of his dad's seashore project, happening right there, today. Bertie and the rest of the friends looked at Arlo and encouraged him, saying he shouldn't give up on his family so easily and that he needed to talk to his dad one more time to make him understand. Spurred on by his friends, Arlo and the group sneaked into the event. The place was packed with a huge crowd, and his dad was right there on stage. Arlo and his friends managed to slip backstage, but danger was lurking close behind. Those evil animal hunters had tracked them here too, and they were hiding in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to grab Arlo. Arlo tried to get his dad's attention, but his dad was too busy and refused to listen, walking right past him onto the stage to deliver his big speech about the new project to the cheering crowd. Arlo felt defeated and sad again. Seeing him lose hope, Bertie nudged him and said, "Arlo, you have such a beautiful voice. Why don't you just sing?" Taking her advice, Arlo stood up and began to sing. His powerful, emotional voice echoed across the entire venue. Through his song, he poured out all his pain, his journey, his feelings, and his deep longing for a father's love. Listening to the words, his dad's heart completely melted, and tears welled up in his eyes. He realized what a terrible mistake he had made. But just as his dad stepped forward, ready to claim Arlo as his son in front of everyone, the animal hunters suddenly ambushed the stage. They grabbed Arlo and tried to drag him away. Bertie rushed forward to save her friend, but the ruthless hunter unleashed his terrifying giant beast on her. Bertie bravely stood her ground and began to fight the monster. Right when things looked completely hopeless, someone incredible came flying through the air. The figure swooped down with great speed, fought off the attackers, and rescued Arlo. When this mysterious savior landed on the ground, everyone gasped. The person was half bird and half human, with majestic wings, and it was none other than Arlo's dad. Holding Arlo close, his dad confessed the truth to him and the entire crowd. He explained his painful past. When he was a child, people used to bully him and mock him mercilessly because he was half bird. No one accepted him. So, he made a promise to himself that he would become a rich, powerful businessman so people would respect him, and he hid his true identity behind human clothes. When Arlo was born half alligator, the dad panicked. He was terrified that the world would find out his secret and ruin his success, which is why he had abandoned Arlo in the drain all those years ago. With tears in his eyes, Arlo's dad deeply apologized for his selfishness and begged Arlo to come and live with him. Arlo was overjoyed to finally have his father's love, but he looked back at his loyal friends who had risked everything for him. He told his dad that he couldn't leave his friends behind. Understanding his son's golden heart, his dad smiled and told them all that they could live together happily right there at the beautiful seashore property. Arlo was thrilled. At the very end of the movie, we see Arlo sitting down happily, writing a beautiful letter to his stepmom back in the swamp. He writes about how he finally found his real dad, how he is now living by the beautiful seashore surrounded by his amazing friends, and how incredibly happy he finally is. And with that heartwarming note, the movie comes to a beautiful end.